Hello, everyone. Smatho here from Daily Fantasy Rankings. We're the DFS Down Under show. I'm always joined here by Big Hef. How are you tonight, mate?
Good, Smatho. The pressure was on there for your intro. Here you've got us going live tonight.
I am. We are live tonight. We are also recording for our YouTube videos, but yes, we are live on Twitter. So if you have any hearts for us or any comments, do drop them in as we go through. We've just watched a great game of fantasy footy. I wouldn't call it a great game of AFL, but we just saw the Crows and the Pies do battle at the Adelaide Oval. Now, unfortunately, I didn't see much of the game itself, but Hef, you want to give a shout out to any of the viewers tonight how they went today in DFS?
Well, the winner and the second place getter, what a performance. Put the same team in and won twice. Now, he's a pretty well-known player in the community, Smatho. Do you want to do the honours?
Yes, Brett_Brent, the single bullet master. He's just gone whooshka with two single bullets tonight. Look, I haven't actually checked the adjustments yet. I better do that as you do that. I better click on this bloody tab at 60,000. Let me just go in the lobby and have a quick look here.
We might have cooked him.
We might have, but look, last time I checked, there were $5,000 first places there. As it loads up for me here. Yes, well done. 791 points. Well done, Brent. You've been grinding DFS for a long time. DFR member as well, so obviously that will shoot him up the rankings there for us, Hef.
As it should do. What a performance. Rory Laird, where's that come from? 139. I actually been mucking around with some max entries on some of the smaller tournaments and got my times mixed up tonight, Smitho. So I went to put in my lineups and the game had started, and that was the biggest win I would have had all night because I didn't have enough Rory Laird, and a slice of luck for myself. But 139, 101 for Brodie Smith, 103 for Matt Crouch. All the Crows, they showed a bit more tonight. I still don't know if they're going to win a game all season, but Brent was all over him tonight and came through with the goods.
Now, there was some whispers during the day about Brodie Grundy's, performance or even lining up for the side today. Would you take anything into that after being outscored by Darcy Cameron tonight?
Yeah, well, we didn't really know what to make of the Gawn rumours, and obviously they were pretty well founded in the end, so maybe there was something a bit to it with Grundy. He was well down on his usual output there, but Cameron, for a guy who took so long to get a game, and the only reason anyone knew his name was because he was the perfect guy to plug in at your fourth ruck position on AFL Fantasy. He's actually been really good this season, backing up Grundy, and no doubt his place in the team has been affecting Grundy's output too.
All right, well, let's move on with a massive show here tonight. This is obviously round 11, so this is episode 11 of the DFR show, but round 11 actually finishes tomorrow, so we'll get through the Suns and the Bombers in a minute. But a couple of topics I want to touch on before we get onto the AFL, and I want to quickly touch on the DraftKings Ashes. We've gone through two test matches here, Hef, so far, and the ledger is a Team Australia 1, Team UK also 1. Now, let's be honest, we didn't have much of a go last night in the Counter-Strike, but snagging the NBA has been a bit of a feather in the Australians' cap. Now, Team Australia now go into the third test, which is the Champions League soccer, and they're playing some sort of Atlanta slate on Thursday morning. So I think we might go down to one PGA, then AFL to finish. Who do you think is going to take the Ashes out after being 1-1 at the moment?
Well, we can afford to drop the Champions League, can't we? Feels like Joffrey hit about 5 of us in the head there in the Counter-Strike, but hopefully we can regroup. I'm pretty confident we would be pretty hard to beat in the PGA, and you'd like to think that we'd have the AFL covered, wouldn't you?
I think we can chalk up the final test, which is the AFL. So it will probably come down to the PGA, which is obviously one of the most difficult DFS sports known to man, especially when you've got large fields here. So that's the Wyndham Championship. So make sure you keep an eye on DFR Twitter, hashtag DK Ashes, and we'll be following along the guys. So hopefully they'll pick up the win. Let's move on to, obviously, Smatho's 2 thumbs up. Now, I've already given a little sneaky one to Brent tonight, but there's been plenty of matches over round 10 and round 11 to go through, so much so that there are too many nominations just to write down. So I'm just going to get straight into it. On Sunday, on Draftstars, one of DFR's highly ranked players, Rexall 9, absolutely had a field day on Sunday, taking out the Draftstars main contest. All right, Hef, so I'm going to bring up his team here to have a quick look at his side that won on Sunday. Let's have a look here. Oh dear, I'll bring up the wrong side. Just bear with me for a second here, Hef. Wowee, what's happened here?
You've gone to water. A bit of live action.
I've gone to water with live action here. All right. As I bring up his side, you just have a quick chat about what Rexall did there for us on Sunday.
From memory, it wasn't just first, was it? He took first and second.
He did take first and second. That's right.
And happened to take second on DraftKings as well, from memory. A bit of a veteran of the DFS landscape in Australia, Rexall. He's bobbed up in many sports. I just did notice he was talking about his beloved Roos going down, but he wasn't too unhappy considering he had Petrarca, Sparrow, Angus Brayshaw. I love the Sparrow and Angus Brayshaw plays there with Viney out of the side, and they both rewarded him, and he was able to carry a 41 from Ben Mackay. Luke McDonald, what has happened to Luke McDonald, a guy who had years and years of very poor fantasy output, and he's been bitten by a radioactive spider the last month and has gone absolutely bananas. So he was obviously the key to that slate, 123. So well done to Rex. That was a massive slate.
All right. I couldn't bring it up in time, Hef, so I'm going to apologise to Rex. I'm sure he's a massive fan of the DFR show, and this is a 2 thumbs up to you, mate. Well done to you, but I'm so sorry I couldn't bring up your side here due to Smatho being a producer and a host at the same time, just not getting the job done. I dare
say he's looked at that lineup about 100 times since he won, so he's pretty sure he would have known what it was.
Fair enough. All right, let's get stuck into Wednesday footy then. So we've got the Gold Coast Suns taking on the Bombers. Currently, the Gold Coast Suns are $1.63 and the Bombers are $2.30. The spread's at 7.5 and the total's 124.5. For the fantasy sites, Draftstars also have a $60,000 contest tomorrow with all their offerings such as the minis, the micros, the fivers as well. DraftKings have put up a $6,000 single showdown contest as well. In team news, there's a couple of ins there could be fantasy relevant. Sam Flanders gets his debut for the Suns along with I would say the little pig, but he's no longer a pig anymore. Braden Fiorini and Josh Corbett are in for the Suns. We've lost Sexton, Jeremy Sharp, and Nick Holman for the Bombers. Dylan Clark, Gleeson, and Tommy Belchamp just come back in for Jacob Townsend, who got knocked out in the goal square. Michael Hurley's been managed, and Sammy Draper, which has obviously been the talk of the season-longs fantasy today. So you just got to shrug your shoulders to those guys who got sucked in for the Draper. Now, as always, we have our free data tools on the DFR site, which includes all of our points against tools. And I've brought up a couple of stats here for you have to get through before you make your arguments for this particular game. Essendon currently is the number one for 80-plus scores. All right. Also, in the midfield, they are second for top 3 for midfielders, third for midfielders overall. For rucks, they're number 1 for leaking points and number 1 in leaking, and the number 1 rucks as well. So they're top of the charts. Although Gold Coast, they're not too bad as well. They're up there as well, but Essendon dominate the data tools there. So what are your initial thoughts on this particular contest before we break down this particular match?
My initial thoughts are you're being a little bit misleading there, Smatho. If you look at those 80-plus scores, you see Gold Coast is 5th. All those positions apart from the rucks, Gold Coast is very close to Essendon in basically all of them. Backs, centres, forwards, very, very similar numbers. It's just the rucks where we see a clear edge to Gold Coast in this one. So I found this one quite hard to find any strong trends to go after. So yeah, I think we're going to need a bit of luck in this one, and I think it's going to be a really close slate.
All right, so let's look at the rucks then. So we have Jared Witts at 13,400. He's going to take up against Bell Chambers. Now, as I said, the rucks Essendon leak to number one in the league. So do we just trust Witts and move on, or can we get Bell Chambers at a bit of value?
Yeah, I wouldn't turn you off Witts. He's the obvious selection here. Just a little bit concerned with how Witts is going, actually. Against the Saints, he was pretty poor with just the 55, 49 against GWS. It's not form that would really have you raving about paying 13,000 for something. So the last time we talked about Witts on this show was when he was up against English, and I was a bit down in the dumps on Witts back then too, and he did give English a bit of a hiding. But this time he comes up against Bill Chambers, who much maligned Bill Chambers, but I'm always just a bit wary of him because he's a big body. He's not going to give it to Witts in the ruck contests, and Witts isn't your huge around the ground guy. Maybe there's.
Oh no. Sorry for the technical difficulty there. We lost Hef halfway through his suggestions on the rucks. Good to have you back here, Hef.
I had some total gold there, and you've missed out. And I can't remember what I said.
We'll talk about Bombers rucks.
Bombers ruck. We've been through Witts. I was going to make a case for Sam Day, actually. He was quite reasonable against the Saints last time. And just looking with Hurley out of the side now as well for Essendon, they do seem a little bit light on big, strong key defenders. So that's going to play into Sam Day's hands. And if you're not willing to spend up on Witts, you've got no faith in Tom Bill Chambers, which both are viable concerns, I think. I think Sam Day presents a nice alternative at sub 7,000.
All right, let's move on to the defence then. And we were all kind of shocked last week with Connor McKenna being thrown up forward and didn't really do much last week. So no one's going to pick him this week. Could they throw him back in defence after that failed experiment?
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think they'll stay with it. He's just on the right headspace for me, Connor McKenna. There's talk that he missed when he was managed a couple of weeks ago, he's actually homesick, and that's why they decided he wasn't right to play. Then they've thrown him forward. Don't think there was any major changes in team selection that hints that he could go back. We've got Gleeson coming in to replace Hurley in the back line there. So I think he's going to be forward again, McKenna. Even if he does go back, 11,000, I'm not scared to avoid McKenna at all.
All right, what about Suns options? There's not too many outside of your regulars, like Lukosius and Harbrow, but Sam's Collins at 9,460 is something that I've kind of like here. He's had a 59, 72 and a 63 in his past 3 matches. Is a bit of Collins there, or is there anyone else that you like on the other side?
Look, this has come from nowhere a bit, this Sam Collins. He's put together a really good couple of months. Up to 9,000 is... I don't like chasing these guys as they keep rising in price. I think it almost caps his upside somewhat. But he does stand out there on his recent average. So I'm more inclined to fade Collins just on the basis that people looking on raw numbers are going to find him quite attractive there at 9,500. I think one of the safest players is Jack Lukosius, who is a young bloke with just unbelievable talent, and he's really starting to put things together. 11,000, I think he's pretty likely to get you a 70. So especially in those cash games or single entries, I think he's really safe play. Whether he's got the upside to win you a GPP, I think you'd want to group him with some more upside players around him. But in terms of safety, he's definitely a guy I want to look at. Jordan Ridley's an interesting one on whether he'll actually take the field. He took a really nasty knock at the end of that GWS game. If he does play, though, he's another guy who's just super consistent. And, under 13,000, I think he's still playable as well.
All right, let's move on to the mids. Look, the price is actually not too bad. There's no really anyone over 15, 16K to worry about the stud value. So, but look, the 14,000, 13,000, 12,000 options here. But as I mentioned, that Essendon give up plenty through the midfield in terms of fantasy point scoring. So could we be leaning on Suns options instead of Bomber options?
I think so. I think you can get the Bombers in contested ball, which is going to suit Hugh Greenwood down to the ground. We've seen him come up with a number of 100-point scores in this season already. His last 2 weeks have been a little bit off, but he's been up against GWS and St Kilda, who are 2 very good contested ball sides, and I don't put Essendon in that bracket. I think he's going to be too big and strong for their midfield, which is quite small. McGrath, Shield, Merritt, they're not big fellas by any stretch. So I think that really suits Greenwood here. I'm interested to see. I haven't worked this out yet because the teams haven't been out for that long, and I was watching a bit of footy. But Dylan Clark coming into the Essendon side is a really interesting player to consider for 2 angles. One is when he's allowed to chase the ball, he does actually have some reasonable fantasy scoring history behind him. So at 9,000, he'd definitely be in play on that basis. I assume that they're going to run him through the middle of the ground if they're bringing him in. But on the flip side, he has been used as a tagger before at different stages. I think everyone remembers him doing a really good job on Patrick Cripps. Gold Coast don't have an obvious guy to tag. I'm a little bit scared that Greenwood would be the type of player that he could go with and try and nullify his influence around the stoppages. So that scares me a little bit. But so he's a guy that you've really got to try and work out what they're going to do with Clark. And before we jump off the mids, I want to talk about Sam Flanders, Smatho, who you mentioned. 5,000. Have you got any info for us on Flanders?
Not too much on Flanders, but he's been a highly touted Suns pick from a couple of years back. So he's going to be very popular considering there's no real other options below 10K. Sean Lemons at 7-4 might be some pivot options, but I think Flanders to get his 40 to 50 might be the go here.
Yeah, so he was pick 11. The draft just gone, Flanders, and some even said he was a bit of a slider at 11. I've seen some draft experts rated him really highly, and they're really excited that Gold Coast were able to pair him with Anderson and Rao. So there's massive raps on this kid from some corners. He's more of a mid-forward at this stage of his career. Whether he has the massive fantasy scoring upside early in his career, I'm not so sure. But we've mentioned 5K is pretty cheap, and this guy's obviously got a lot of talent. So, yeah, he's going to be popular. And, well, I don't think he's a total lock. He's pretty hard to go past.
All right, let's move on to the forwards. And apart from a couple of options that are quite obvious, there's not really too many that stands out for me. The obvious ones I'm looking here is Devon Smith, who seems to be a bit more building back into the midfield and more into fantasy scoring. So that's 12,360. Then Ben Ainsworth on the other side as well. He's at 11,770. They're the two options. Well, they're dual position players, so they're quite obvious to get into there, but is there anything we can pivot away to in the forward line to make your sides a little bit more contrarian?
Contrarian. Well, I was looking through the centre bounce attendances on the website. They're the data tools we have, and I noticed McDonald, Tip and Woody was in 55% of bounces last week for Essendon. Well, I say last week, it was only a few nights ago, really.
Yes.
Which I found really interesting. We know that it's not a hard and fast rule, but the more often you're in the middle, the better your scoring tends to go. So at 9,000, I think he's not a guy I would be piling in my teams, but I definitely think he's worth playing. Corbett is a new guy who's probably worth mentioning. He's more of your lead mark kick forward. So while he's really cheap, he's got upside, but he's also got a really low floor. So keep that in mind when you're considering Corbett. Zaharakis is a guy who continues to do my head in, Smatho. Is he gone or is he still with us? I can't work it out yet.
He's been teasing. He was gone, he's come back, and then now he's just hanging around that half forward line, almost back in the forward pocket again, which is kind of a bit annoying.
Yeah, he was totally gone, but you look at his last five, he's averaging 65 through his last five, and he's priced at 9,000. So just an average game from him on that basis returns really good value at that price. So I expect he's going to be pretty popular again, Zaharakis. I've been trying to fade him in recent times with very limited success. So that's probably the way I go again. But yeah, he's going much better than I thought he was going to a month ago, Zaharakis, that's for sure.
Fair enough. Last question, would you employ the double ruck stack in this particular one, or these guys don't have much floors or ceilings in them?
Look, I didn't love the rucks enough that I wanted to play two of them. So if I'm looking at playing Day or I'm looking at playing McKernan, the only one I could really see myself playing would be Day with Wits in a big Gold Coast stack. Otherwise, I think I'd prefer to use Day in the ruck and then spend my money up around the other positions.
Fair enough. All right, Hef, well, thanks for your thoughts for the Gold Coast Suns and the Essendon Bombers on Wednesday night. So just make sure you get to dailyfantasyrankings.com.au for the preview, the cheat sheets, all the data tools, the CBAs that you need to find out who's going to be in the middle for this particular matchup. Hef, thanks for joining me on the show tonight.
Thank you. Anytime.
Now, sorry for the little technical difficulties on the back end there. I'm sure I'll be able to clean this up and make it all nice and pretty for all the viewers on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to that. So
I'll tell you what gold I had next week when I see what the scores were.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on the DFR show.
Thanks, mate. See ya.